So we're starting again, obviously, and I was thinking earlier, when we curate our speakers, and we put a lot of effort into this, we are really always looking for people who have a lot of expertise in their field, and possibly people who you may not know about, or may not have seen before, because it's important to go out of that filter bubble, I think. Now, I know that some of you did quite a bit of PR, because you said that in the questions that I asked on the research. But for others, it might be a little bit alien to you. If you want to know what an alien looks like, don't forget got Alan over there. And this one here is called And. It's a story behind it. Ask us in the break. Now, we live in a very noisy world with marketing. It's very difficult sometimes for messages to get through. But things like PR can really help you do that. Emma Leech is Director of Marketing and Advancement at Loughborough University here in the East Midlands. And if you look at the marketing that they do, it's really a masterclass, I think, in persona building and targeting. And I've just got some examples. Emma's also President-elect of the CIPR and is clearly, at the top of her game. So I'm really pleased that she's here today to share some of her knowledge. Please welcome Emma Leech.
Lectern for me to hide behind and see I have no tats, no top knot and nothing in terms of artisan facial hair to share with you. But that doesn't make anything that I'm going to say any less valid. So hopefully you'll learn a few things today and we'll take the journey together. Paul was very, very kind in his introduction, and I have been working in PR now for 31 years nearly. And what I've learned in that time is that communications is absolutely at the heart of everything that needs to happen in marketing terms. Otherwise, you are wasting your budget. So think about communications first and think about how you put that at the heart of your strategy. My focus today is turbocharging your marketing. I'm going to hopefully give you some pointers on how PR in a modern context can help you do that. Now, I am not going to venture off this stage. This is my safe place. Anyone who knows me, and Dane, my colleagues in the audience, I am the clumsiest one on the planet. Therefore, getting up and down the stairs and wandering about where there are bags and other similar things I can't see, I'm not going to do it, so apologies for that. But, let's start. That's what PR absolutely isn't. It absolutely is not that. Tell that to the guy in the corner and the bottles next to him. I think he's definitely been fabbing and having a great evening. But it is about this. And actually one of the things that we could talk about today is whether you just take the old-fashioned term reputation out of that and you talk about trust. Because it's absolutely about building trust and authenticity, and that has to be at the heart of your brand and your brand building in the modern environment. So, at Loughborough, I pride us on having what we call it's a really thorough root and branch approach to everything we do, and we don't take shortcuts. And that means that anything that I consider to be lazy girl marketing, i.e. the pouncing around on the stuff around the edges and thinking about the gimmicks, before we've actually done the basics, we bin that. We don't roll over copy. We don't do what we did last year and red pen it and hope for the best. We listen to our audiences. As a result of that, Loughborough has the highest net promoter score in the education sector, and a really passionate and dedicated team of advocates, both staff and students. And we've been building some of that under a hashtag Elborough Family over the past couple of years, and that's really tapped into that sense of connectedness, and it gives us amplification across all our branding activities. Okay, so a few examples. This is the good. Let's see if I can get the video to which was quite cute actually, and very sweet of him. One of the things that we do is we grab opportunities. So anyone in the room ever heard of Loughborough University? what word, if I ask you for a word, are you going to yell back at me? Okay, so I've deliberately not covered loads about sport in this presentation, but what we do is we leverage sport. So actually, we got somewhere in the region of, I think, 150,000 views of the bus coming back from the Olympics and various athletes tipping out on the grass outside the front of our campus. And I think there was a bit of a chasing down moment when we saw the bus arrive, and it was like, get outside, who's got a phone? PR doesn't have to be really thought through, crafted, long term. It can just be snippets of content. You can tap into content marketing, and that is a part of modern PR practice. So, I gave you a good example from us. I'm going to give you a not so good example next. This was an advertising campaign. Some of you might have seen it fairly recently. Buy your dad a Jag. So basically, private school, and the marketing angle on this was, if you come here, you're going to be better than your dad, and you're going to be able to buy your dad a Jag. Well, actually, regardless of where you sit on the political spectrum, that leaves a bit of a bad taste and was not thought through. And what I'm seeing increasingly is a blurring of what I would call the line between sass and rudeness, and also banter and bullying online. And I don't think that does anyone in our industry any good. I'll accept that controversy can sell things, but equally, not thinking through the implications of being controversial can be equally bad. So this is my ugly example. Any feminists in the room want to just get that up there and give whoever came up with this brilliant campaign a smack? Because I know I did when I saw it. There is something about thinking through how people react to words, to images, and what that emotion and the emotional connection is that you can tap into to support your business. So, our approach is fairly holistic, loads of different bits on that. You'll get the slide to have a look at, but we think about pretty much everything. When I talked about lazy goal marketing, the interesting part of our job is akin to wandering around in John Lewis picking the cushions, right? But sometimes you've got to start by fixing the roof, because if you don't do that first and you don't have a solid strategy and you haven't thought about your KPIs, you haven't nailed your audiences, and you haven't worked out what they want from you as customers, you're going nowhere. So we think about all of this in the round, and there is something about the way that you portray yourself visually, but also through the narrative and the storytelling at your particular organisation. And Chris and others touched on that this morning and made some incredible points. So, for me, new ways to market. I love this slide because it works with many of my academic colleagues who believe that marketing is about needing a poster. We still want posters in the education world, I'm not sure. 30 years now it's something like this. You don't need a poster. What you need to do is to tell me what you want to achieve. What's the call to action? And what does success look like? And then let us worry about the channels backwards from that. And one of the things that's really important in terms of thinking about your channels is what's the content through those channels, and how can you amplify it at every touch point in your buying, selling cycle. Okay, so lots of stuff up here that you'll all be familiar with. Search, buzz, blogs, online research, user reviews. In the good old world of education, user reviews are now the second most important influencing factor on decision-making behaviour according to UCAS. Now, even 3 years ago, people would have gone, user reviews, what? So actually, we're developing with people from the student crowd an API that will pull their reviews live onto our website, and we'll be the first university in the country to do that, because, do you know what? We have nothing to hide about the quality of our brand, and it's really important that students looking for a place can absolutely see what we're about, what's and all, in terms of that decision-making process. That's been there for a lot of B2B, B2C for a long time. In education, not necessarily the way. The other thing for us is how our social channels work alongside traditional PR. I'm going to give you a few examples in a moment. So, very, very boring slide, but actually not a bad thing to think about in terms of your own PR planning and blueprint. So a few basics on there, but it's actually for us all about objectives, and equally it's about goals and measurement. The days of an event, for example, what was the event like? Oh, it was really nice, everybody had a good time. Not interested in that, the event is costing me money to deliver. What I need to know is, yes, did people have a good time, but I also need to know what the follow-up from that was. What are the interactions, what are the trigger points? Did we do the data collection? Are we then following that through? What are the prompts, what are the nudges in our communications that will help those people make the right informed decision for them? I should also say at this point, in case there are any secret academics in the room, that we're also very big on promoting research, enterprise, teaching and learning, and all the other commercial stuff that we have on campus. But clearly, recruitment tends to pay the mortgage, so it's a big area of focus for us. And it's the most interesting because, on the whole, it involves young people and education matters. Okay, mobile first. You know this, I'm not going to labour this. PR is now on mobile first too. This is a really important slide. News is not in newspapers anymore. Hands up in the room who reads a newspaper every single day. Okay. Ooh, old school, liking it in the middle, a cluster of you sitting together for safety, and there's one outlier everybody needs to get on that table. Some of the audiences, if I'm presenting to our council or our board, lots more of those people would read a newspaper, and actually I'm not doing my job unless they are in the Telegraph or the Sunday Times or similar, and actually they're quite pleased with us because we're Sunday Times and Times Good University, the Guide University of the Year, so that we were all over everything on Sunday. We did a raw visit yesterday, so we made the front of the Sunday Times today with some branded netballs that Meghan and Harry were lobbing about. So that's quite good. So that's me done for the year now in terms of print. Don't tell anybody that. But how many of you would read news online? Yeah, okay. And how many of you will admit to only picking up news on a feed on some of your social channels because you don't even look at BBC anymore? Okay, yeah, hardcore. You're not ashamed. And actually, if I ask this question in 12 months' time, that number will grow further. So for us, it's about who is reading what, where, and how do we reach them with our content? And how do we build in sharing triggers to our content to make that happen? Just a couple of slides here on content search and social media in a PR context. You can see the rise of smartphones in there, I'm not going to labour that. But what it does mean is that we need to be very, very savvy in terms of SEO, keyword building into our PR activity, and increasingly using video stories to cut through and to make it really easy for news outlets to pick up on our stories and share them. So my colleague Dave in the room is a video journalist, works in our team. We have an online media hub, you can get raw footage, you can get films, you can do that 24/7, you can access the information, you can get it in whatever format you want. So if you are ITV, or you are a radio producer, or you're the Leicester Mercury or the Daily Mail, you don't have to mess around waiting for someone in the press office to send you something in. You can get it when it suits you. And having that bank of video films for us is about developing something we call evergreen content. Anyone in the room heard of a bloke called Adam Peaty? A few of you? He trains at our place, which is very, very cool. We have amazing footage of his behind-the-scenes training in a series called My Lifestyle that Dane's been responsible for. Every time Adam breaks a record, which he does with phenomenal, stunning regularity, that content comes out, because who doesn't want to see behind-the-scenes footage of how somebody actually hits that level? Equally, anyone boxing fans in the room? Don't look like a boxing audience, to be honest. One or two, okay. Just in the darkest corners away from the people that don't ever read any news. Dillian White, we did the training video for him fairly recently. Again, massive take-up because people are interested in people. It's an old slide now, but all I want you to notice is this sharing stuff can be shared, which means if I'm doing my job correctly, I can share it really easily through LinkedIn and through Twitter, very specifically, as well as on Facebook. Now, actually, LinkedIn for us is growing as a platform, and the reason for that is because a lot of our alumni are on LinkedIn. A lot of those people are in a position to open doors to the next generation of our students, but they're also in positions where ultimately at some point they might be able to give us some money or give us a helping hand or lend us a venue or. And the reason for that association is pride. Pride's one of those emotional triggers. Anybody in the room got a football team or a sports team that they are absolutely passionate about? Hands up. Oh, you tell you're all spending your time staring at screens and doing social, aren't you? Right, okay. But generally speaking, if people are passionate about something, they share it. And we like to tap into that.
And thought leadership and video case studies. We're very lucky. We got hold of a bit of funding a few years ago. We have something called Global Links on the campus. It allows us to do down-the-line interviews anytime, day or night, and it's basically broadcastable globally. That's a really interesting piece of kit for us because it means that we can newsjack and we can jump on what is ever is breaking in the news now with expert commentary. We can reuse our videos, that evergreen content I was talking about earlier, and we can make sure that we are front and centre in terms of stories and commenting on that kind of activity. And this, you'll all be familiar with this. So we do very, very, very little paid. And actually, the fact that our budgets on the marketing side are really tight, I think, sparks creativity in my team. And what we do find is that if we do this properly, and we are where we need to be in terms of earned and owned and shared, that actually we know then how to back our winners in terms of the paid stuff. And that gives us much more amplification and run for our money. So this I keep next to my desk just because I love it. Who doesn't love e-consultancy? Just a really interesting little trigger prompt on the days when you're a little bit spaced out or you're like this guy in the corner, not maybe firing on all cylinders, just to think about opportunities and what you could be doing to keep your plan fresh. And we do have very rigorous content planning and also media scheduling because that enables us to forward plan. But there's a lot of stuff that's reactive and opportunistic, and you need to also be flexible enough in a PR context to work that through and maximise those opportunities. And this might explain why I'm just lonely and single, but really, really important. So we do a lot of what we would call micro-engagement. If we see a tweet from you as a potential student, you say, oh great, got an offer today from Nottingham and Loughborough, don't know what to do, we're straight back at you with a personalised from a human tweet that's about interacting, that's asking you a question, both great unis, we know which we'd prefer, have you been to an open day yet, etc., etc. And having those conversations from beginning to end also helps us to understand their emotional journeys and the trajectories and what kind of information they need from us in a PR and marketing context all the time. So, I'm going to talk about 2 short case studies and I'm going to whiz through them. Is there anyone in the room that would like to give me a guesstimate for what the value of this campaign was? We spent £2,300 on it. What did it bring in terms of actual pound notes, ROI, money, cash? Any offers? 30 grand, okay, 30 grand. Anybody else? Oh, it's like higher, lower, come on. What do you reckon? 200 grand. What if I said 4.6 million? Million pounds, like that. 4.6 million. And this was a PR-led campaign. So our total spend was 2,300. What we did was we were savvy with the planning. We got our double-page spread case study, mother and daughter, with a video case study on the PR side, sold into The Guardian well in advance of all of our competitors, which meant we were the ones that were in over the weekend just before A-level results day. We could then make that content available on our website and landing pages and feed it through our CRM and social channels. We had a golden ticket. We personalised these things to people who'd made the grades because we knew it was very shareable. We did detailed content strategy behind it, making absolute use of the Elborough family hashtag right the way through. And people got these things. So anybody remember the golden ticket Charlie and the Chocolate Factory thing from their youth? So when I raised this with my team, most of them, I'm a grandma to people in my team, they all looked at me like I'd landed. But actually there is something about that emotional resonance. And equally, for those of you who are more hip, I just have aching hips these days, there's also something about a golden ticket or a fast track pass into clubs or similar, etc., etc. This is a couple of years ago now, so we've actually evolved it. This year, you got a personalised festival pass with little snippets of info on, a coffee and a cookie voucher for when you arrived, rainbow lanyard to stress our creativity and inclusivity, but also because you're going to use that when you get here for your student ID card. So things evolve. But that concept of being personalised really won hearts and minds, and students loved it. So the cut through and clarity for us was the Mail, it was the Mirror, we also got coverage in the Times, in the Guardian, etc., etc., on top of social. We didn't do millions of pounds worth of paid advertising. We just found a clever way of getting people to sit up and take notice. And this is some of the media profile for it. Co-op methodology, we stole that from some clever people at Harvard a good long time ago. Create once and publish everywhere. And that's part of our content strategy. Thinking things through and thinking in advance how to maximise any video, content, collateral, digital assets that we develop. And leveraging images, so it's excitable for people who are getting their A-level results. It's probably the most exciting day of their life to date. So they're going to share things. We got personalisation on all of those. What we learnt from this was actually just to go with first names. So this year's festival pass has just got first names only on it. We also map the metrics, very boring, but things like looking at calls per hour, because part of my operation is also front-loading call centre operations for subsequent years. And if I know what the speed and the pace and the intensity is, I can work out how best to deal with that traffic. Because actually, if you're getting 2 Ds and an E, I can't help you. Somewhere else might be, but I don't want you cluttering up my phone lines. Sounds awful, doesn't it? But do you know what? I can't help you as a customer, because it's a little bit like me selling a house. If my house is 600 grand and you have 200 grand to spend, I can't help you. I'd love to, actually. I don't have a 600 grand house, but anyway, moving on. So the shareable content thing, really simple idea. Okay, doesn't get any easier than that, does it? But what do you think they did? They shared it straight away. Check out 30 seconds in or whatever, wherever they were, because they want it to be part of that. So for us, there are 42 influencing factors on decision-making behaviour for universities. That sense of belonging stuff, the sense of community, will I fit in? All of that, that's really important, bubbling up. Most places are not taking note of that. We are, and it's really important to us. This is a second case study, and this is completely different again. And this was about doing a CSR piece that we felt was really important to build both our brand, but also because it was the right thing to do. I'm not going to labour the numbers, but what you can see here is that there's quite a tough challenge for us. Loughborough's quite a small place, and actually the student body is not ginormous. It's not anything like the size of Nottingham, about half the size. So there is something in this about how we get people involved and motivated to support Anthony Nolan Trust. The qualified donor stuff at the bottom is really important, because we can't accept international students who will be in the country for less than 3 years, etc., etc. And this is the way that we delivered on it. We started with that research and planning piece to just understand the stats. So I've talked a lot about emotions and I've talked a lot about visuals, but sometimes those stats are really hard hitting. And particularly for me, if you're from an ethnic minority community, pretty much you're knackered if you're diagnosed with leukemia, and that is really, really scary, because there just aren't enough donors. And I don't think that any of us would want somebody to not have a chance at life because somebody else just hadn't spat in a tube and maybe put themselves on a register to help out. So our aim was to get 2,000 registered donors for Anthony Nolan in the space of a day, to break a record held previously by Leicester University, which was 1,400. Now, for us, there's a sense of rivalry and competition on campus that is reflected in the sports stuff, and the halls especially, and a real sense of community spirit. And what that means for us is we work slightly differently in an internal comms context. There's still elements of PR in that, there's still elements of planning, but it's a bit like brothers and sisters. Anyone got a brother and sister they fight like cat and dog with? Yeah, a few, maybe? Yeah. Okay, but if somebody else gangs up and tries to have a pop at your brother and sister, what do? Like that. That's what's part of our psyche. So if you understand the psyche of your audiences, halls competition was the way to go for us. we started with a really powerful video, which I'm not going to show you because it always reduces me to tears. This is our Pro Vice Chancellor Research, who was a leukemia sufferer in his own right. And it came as a bolt out of the blue for him, and he had quite young children at the time. And he now is a real advocate for Anthony Nolan. But his story of basically thinking you had a cold, going in and just being told you don't, you've got leukemia and you might have a couple of months unless you can find a donor, is something that really triggered a lot of emotions with our audiences. And I think, again, back to emotions, but how do you get people to do something about it, whether that's buying something from you, a product or service, or just engaging with your cause? Pre-event communications, very simple.
The 15th of March is when Spit happens. This is your chance to contribute to the Anthony Nolan charity and make a huge difference to people suffering from leukemia. There's a competition between the halls. There are all sorts of locations on the campus where you can donate your sample. So come and spit on the 15th of March for a very, very worthy cause.
So I presented on this at a public sector comms conference earlier this year, because this particular campaign, the other campaign won a lot of awards as well, but this one, it's won 7 or 8 national ones on awards, 2 CIPR Excellence Awards, IOIC Awards, Anthony Nolan Supporter Awards, blah, blah, blah. Bob has spearheaded a lot of that activity for us, and he's very well known on campus. So encouraging people to get involved had some credence. Lots of the public sector communicator people said, oh, Spit happens, that's a little bit, we're not sure we would have got sign off for that. Well, do you know what? It's a little bit like lots of the stuff that we do. I am not your audience. If you are a 55-year-old bloke, it doesn't really matter what you think about the prospectus cover or the content marketing strategy or similar, because you're not my audience. You might be in a research context, in which case I'm going to tailor it appropriately. But we're very lucky in being able to have the autonomy and freedom to do what's right for our audiences, and that is important to us. So we had hand stamps going on during the course of the event, had things like cool to drool on them, and lots of encouragement of people to get their friends in. And this really helped us. So a really simple approach, live stats from the halls, tapping into that competition, and also by course. So if we didn't get you on the halls front, we're going to get you in terms of your course loyalty. And what that meant for us was a trialling of some new techniques. So you'll have seen on the previous slide, if you were eagle-eyed, a thunderclap approach. We hadn't used that before, and this is a few years ago now. But nevertheless, the sign-up that we got from that has been really helpful for us in terms of identifying advocates for future campaigns and how to reach them through PR and communications activity. Lots of social, lots of people joining in, lots of pictures, regular updates, all of that kind of stuff. And then this, I'm just going to show you this quite quickly.
We're at Loughborough University, where we're holding the Spit Happens stem cell registration drive. We're trying to sign up lifesavers to the Anthony Nolan Stem Cell Registry. We have over 400 student volunteers who are helping us to sign more lifesavers up to that register. We've got 10 pods stationed all around the university, and we're having a fantastic busy day.
So I originally signed up on campus at Loughborough University when I was a student in 2011 and didn't think anything of it. When I found out I was a match, got a text through and it said, it's really urgent, need to have you fill in a form, just quickly, just check nothing's changed. And I was really nervous. I was at work, I was like, oh my gosh, this has happened. And then went home, obviously told my parents, and they're really excited, and everyone thinks it's absolutely fantastic, and I do too. Like, the chance to actually save someone's life whilst you're still alive and donate something, it's incredible, because it's not every day that you get to do that, and it's really quick and simple. You come down to one of these sorts of events, fill in all your personal details, an alternative contact, come to one of us, we get it checked, signed off, and then you do your spit donation, and that's it.
I had blood cancer, I had leukemia, and I just could not find a donor. Luckily for me, somebody signed up from Germany and they saved my life. We want as many people on that Anthony Nolan register as we possibly can. It's really hard to find a donor, and it really is a numbers game.
The target which they're trying to beat is 1,400, which was done by Leicester University October of last year. So they're hoping to obviously get a lot more than that. They won't get the total until all the forms have been registered, but we keep getting updates from the tally charts, which are at every Spit pod, and it's great. It's great. Like, we're getting all the students are trying to text their friends to come down who are volunteering, so it's really good to see them all coming down and joining in and getting involved.
Right, guys. So today we wanted to set a new record for the most potential lifesavers at university in one day, and we've just done it. It's great to see so many people getting involved today, so many people signing up, and it's really evident of how committed Loughborough are to charities and volunteering.
Okay, so one of the things for us was we hadn't actually factored in how much alumni and parents would think about this and the impact on potential students, and that was massive for us. So we got a lot of personal stories back about people in their families who were affected by this. And I think for me, there's something in all of this about how you can do something that's right for your brand but also makes a difference and really resonates sometimes with audiences that you hadn't anticipated. So some of the results and evaluation to look at your leisure, we actually got 2,056 in the end. That's 12 lifesavers based on their statistics. First one was through in February this year. We've had another 6 since, I understand, so well on the way there to people genuinely doing something good. Just want to leave you with this, because actually I talked about reputation and respect. Your customers are your advocates, whatever sector you're working in. And if you treat them badly and you mislead them and you're not truthful and you're not authentic and you're not honest, they're not going to come back. And an increasingly vocal world where everybody is angry about everything, you can't afford for that to seep onto social or into your day-to-day marketing activities. So I just would, Benjamin Franklin was quite a smart guy. Just have that in your head in terms of PR and marketing planning going forward. And thank you very much for your attention.